Some news, and I know you were aware of this. Ogbo Okoronkwo released by the Browns. So they say I think it's about 3.4 million. He was in the last year of a deal. It's not a surprise, but what do you think that means for the edge position? I mean, they have some young guys.
They got some young guys, right? But I think they're, with Okoronkwo gone, like I think and not to say that he was amazing or anything like that. I think he's a good player, but I think they're still missing that kind of one clear missing piece on the edge opposite Miles Garrett, obviously, right? Like I really like their interior of the defensive line, bringing in Mason Graham in the draft. I think can play significant snaps on early downs and passing downs and be effective based on a lot of his college metrics coming out, and even guys like Malik Collins, Shelby Harris, Michael Hall Jr. But the edge is where I think there's more question marks, right? Like Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, kind of this reclamation project, former first round pick for Tampa Bay. Isaiah McGuire, he's young, really good run defender for them last year, not necessarily like a polished pass rusher. And then Alex Wright, who he was kind of an overachiever in the sack column in 2023, only played 4 games in 2024 before he got shut down because of injury. So I think there's still could be an upgrade there. I'm looking at the guys that are available in free agency, and funny enough, Jadeveon Clowney, there are a couple former Browns, Jadeveon Clowney and Zadarius Smith, and I know Clowney, he had kind of criticized the team before they let him walk, but he has a chance to make up for that. He's in need of a job right now, and the Browns are in need of a relatively cheap starting option. Zadarius Smith could also maybe be in play. I know he has his heart set on the Lions reunion, but at this point in the offseason, heading into training camp, beggars can't be choosers, right? And he was really good still for Cleveland, and it made sense for them to trade him at the time, but it also kind of makes sense to bring him back if they need to and if he's available. So there are two starting quality options out there in free agency right now who have familiarity with Jim Schwartz's defense and can contribute on a larger snap share next to Miles Garrett so that those other guys they don't have to rely on as much, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, McGuire, Wright, as anything more than like rotational pieces on that defensive line. So there's potential there still for an upgrade, and maybe that was the reason for the cap clearing. But yeah, I guess we'll have to see because we are getting close to training camp, just a few weeks away here.
Yeah, and I know Okoronkwo was kind of banged up, but he didn't have the numbers. He didn't have the sacks that they were, quite frankly, expecting when they brought him in.
Yeah, for sure, right? Like I think there was some hope for him. He brought a lot of decent underlying metrics with him as far as being a pass rusher. It just never really translated for him. Where guys like Zadarius Smith and even Jadeveon Clowney, but Zadarius Smith specifically, I thought was productive for them relative to his role, and I think he still brings that kind of down to down level of quality as far as being a pass rusher that they kind of need at the position, because I don't think you're going to necessarily get that from Shoyinka and McGuire and Wright anything more than like small sample size at the time. But across like an entire game playing a full-time role, it's a little bit riskier to kind of bet on those guys. So I think there's, yeah, potential there. And Okoronkwo, like you said, didn't really work out. So it makes sense, I think, to move on from him and try something else.
So they add pieces in the middle, and Mike Hall was their top pick a year ago. This year it's Mason Graham. They add Malik Collins. How good can this defensive line be overall, do you think?
I think they can be, I think they could still be good. Like I said, obviously missing that one other starting quality option on the edge, but obviously you have Miles Garrett, a threat for multiple sack games every single week. Obviously one of the best players in the league at any position. So Miles Garrett being there makes a huge difference, obviously. But like you said, those guys on the interior, I think, have a lot of potential. And Mason Graham specifically, obviously being a fifth overall pick, there's going to be a pretty high expectation for him, even relative to being a rookie. But they don't have to necessarily rely on him a ton in year one because they have these capable options like Malik Collins and Shelby Harris. And like you said, Michael Hall Jr., second round pick for them last year. So there's these solid players in the middle that can do both a little bit, rush the passer, stuff the run. So I think there's a lot of potential there, especially in the middle, for them to improve even from last year as a defensive line unit, because I like the bodies that they have. And young guys like Michael Hall and Mason Graham who have this potential to develop into better players here in 2025. So yeah, fairly excited. I think about especially the middle of that interior defensive line. Like obviously excited about Myles Garrett every year, but there's potential there for them to be better than I think the projection.